I now declare the September 2025 Council meeting open at 6:30 p.m. and welcome all those in attendance. I now invite Deputy Mayor Wheatland to read the acknowledgement to country.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The City of Melville acknowledges the Bibbulmun people as the traditional owners of the land on which the city stands today and pays its respect to the Whadjuk people and elders both past, present and emerging.
Thank you very much, Deputy Councillor Wheatland. Now I draw your attention to the disclaimer on the screen. The affirmation of civic duty and responsibility on the screen. The advice of audio-visual live streaming and recording on the screen. Item 2, attendance and apologies. We do not have any elected members attending electronically tonight, so we'll move on to item 3, declarations by members. Oh, yes, I must mention that Councillor Woodall is on an approved leave of absence. Item 3, declarations by members. We now move on to declarations by members. Are there any declarations by members who have not read or given due consideration to all matters contained in the business papers presented before the meeting? Councillor Barber.
Madam Mayor, I just got back from Europe this morning and I'm probably not across everything. I've had a quick read, but just declaring that I'm not fully covered.
Thank you very much. Declarations by members who have received and not read the elected members' bulletin. All right, moving on to item 4, announcements by the presiding member. Approved deputations. We have one deputation which has been approved for tonight's meeting from Mr Waugh of Bull Creek in relation to item C25313, Governance Framework Biennial Review. I will call you forward prior to the discussion of this item to make your deputation to council. One written submission has been approved from the City of Melville Residents and Ratepayers Association in relation to 12.1, petition request for public committee for policy review. This information was circulated on Monday to elected members and a copy will be included in the minutes of this meeting. Item 5, disclosure of interest. Can the Head of Governance please advise if there are any disclosures of interest for this evening?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No disclosures of interest have been received.
Thank you. Are there any further disclosures from elected members? If there's no further disclosures, we'll move on to the next item, which is public question time. Now, as per our local law, you will have a maximum of 2 minutes to ask your question and follow-up question. So please keep the preamble to it necessary information. So if you wish to ask more than one question and there are others waiting to ask questions, you will need to wait until everybody else has had a chance to ask a question before you can ask another. I remind everyone that you must complete a public question time form prior to asking your question and you need to hand that in to our officers for the records. Okay, so I now declare public question time open at 6:34 p.m. Questions received in writing prior to the meeting. I will now call forward those who have submitted public questions prior to the meeting, and that is Mr M McCleary of Bicton. Is he here? If he's not present, his answer will be in the minutes. Mr D Sharma of Bull Creek, please come. Oh, just a moment. I'll call you forward in a moment. Mr G Wheeland of Bicton. Miss S Fliss of Applecross. Mr D Morley of Willagee. Okay, wonderful. All right, so Mr M McCleary of Bicton doesn't appear to be here. Mr D Sharma of Bull Creek is, so please come forward and turn your microphone on so we can hear you clearly.
So I'm a resident of Hetherington Drive in Bull Creek, where there are currently poor lighting and unsafe road conditions. There's shrub on the floor, there's plant droppings, twigs, branch on the road. There's no footpath, there's no road, safe enough for a resident or a young mother with a pram to walk or someone who's elderly to walk in the evening. What has the city planned for Hetherington Drive, considering we are paying equal amount of rates as other residents?
Okay, thank you. Acting Director of Environment and Infrastructure, Miss Brodsall, to read. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing your concerns to the City's attention. The City will investigate the concerns raised regarding lighting, footpaths and pedestrian safety and will provide a response on the outcome to you by the end of September 2025. The bush area between Hetherington Drive and South Street is maintained every 4 weeks. Site distance at the existing pedestrian ramps will be checked and further pruning will be undertaken if needed.
Thank you. Now there's a question from Mr. G. Wheeland of Bicton. I don't believe he's here. Miss S. Fliss of Applecross. I don't believe she is here either. Mr. D. Morley of Willagee. Yes, please come forward.
Good evening, everyone. Lovely to see you all. Hope you're having a pleasant evening. My name is Drayton. I like to be known as Drayton. But I do have a question, and it relates to the upcoming election, council elections here in Melville City Council on October 18. It's to do with the resignation of Councillor Thomas Fitzgerald. So my question is, could the council please clarify why the provision introduced into the Local Government Amendment Act of 2024, which addresses the circumstance of the vacancy in Thomas Fitzgerald's councillor position and the need to elect his replacement, hasn't been prioritised for the October 18 elections, especially considering the benefits of holding the 2 councillor elections concurrently, such as cost savings, increased voter engagement, and timely representation, against the disadvantages of delaying until March 2026, which I'm advised is the case, or will be debated at least this evening, for an extraordinary by-election, which could lead to prolonged vacancies, increased costs, and a potential disconnect with voters' current concerns. Thank you.
Ms. Newman, Head of Governance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Just to clarify, an extraordinary election is created when an elected member resigns from their office in accordance with Section 2.32 of the Local Government Act. When an extraordinary vacancy occurs, an extraordinary election must be held. The backfill provisions that were introduced in 2023 only apply for 12 months, and that 12 months has expired in relation to the position held by former Councillor Fitzgerald. I do note that the resignation was received from former Councillor Fitzgerald on Wednesday the 3rd of September. This was after the last day the City was able to advertise vacancies for the 2025 local government elections, and therefore an extraordinary election must be held. Thank you.
You have another question,
I have a
Mr.
follow-up
Morley?
question, if I'm allowed to speak.
Pardon?
I do have a follow-up question, if I'm
Okay,
allowed to speak.
thank you.
Yeah. In light of what you've just said, that it is impossible for the election to take place to elect both councillors in the Palmyra Melville Willagee ward on October 18. Why is it that the provisions that were introduced into state legislature back by Hannah Beasley in 2024 cannot be enacted in this case?
Ms. Newman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and again through you, thank you for the question. The provisions for the backfill only apply for 12 months after the councillor is first elected. That 12 months has expired. That would have expired in October 2024. So the backfill provisions are no longer applicable, and we do have very stringent legislative milestone dates that we need to meet as part of an election process. Unfortunately, the last date for advertising of a vacancy was, I think it was the 28th of August. After that time, we can no longer advertise a vacancy for inclusion in the 18th of October 2025 local government election. So it is in compliance with the current legislation.
Could you, I have one follow-up question if I'm allowed, ma'am.
One final question.
I'm uncertain of what the backfill provisions are. That is a term that's unfamiliar to me. Would you mind explaining that to me? And
Ms Newman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and again through you. Thank you for the question. In 2023, the 2023 election, under local government reform, they introduced what's called a backfill provision, and that's where the person who came second in the election could be offered the position if a vacancy occurred within 12 months. That provision only lasts for 12 months. After that time, we are required to go to an extraordinary election.
do not the provisions that Hannah Beasley introduced in 24 cover this actual event where a councillor has resigned before the end of their tenure? And in terms of whether or not it's going to be beneficial for the city and the ratepayers, would it not be more beneficial in terms of cost and inconvenience by holding the election on October 18 instead of waiting till March next year, when a ward representative from my ward will not sit in council and we will be underrepresented for at least 6 months?
Ms Newman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and again through you. I'm not sure what provision specifically you're speaking to, but we have explored this arrangement extensively with the West Australian Electoral Commission, and there is absolutely no avenue for us to include the extraordinary election with the 18th of October local government election.
It's not, with respect.
Yes, I think it's probably better if you investigate this after the council meeting in more detail, because it seems that you have a lot of detailed questions in respect to that.
Yes, ma'am.
And it seems to be the understanding of the acts. So perhaps that should be pursued
If we could continue our discussions, I'd appreciate it very much.
yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you very much.
Are there any further questions from members of the gallery? If there are no further questions, I declare question time closed at 6:43. We're on to item 7, awards and presentations. There are no awards or presentations for this evening. Item 8, applications for new leave of absence. One request for leave of absence has been submitted by Councillor Lim for 3 weeks in October and November. Are there any further requests? Thank you. If there's no further requests, can I have a mover and seconder for the recommendation? Councillor Ross, seconded Councillor Spanbrook. Is there anyone opposed? If there's no one opposed, I declare it carried. Item 9, confirmation of minutes. 9.1, ordinary meeting of the council, 19th of July. Can I please have a mover and seconder for the officer recommendation? 19th of August. Councillor Lee and seconded Councillor Robbins. Is there anyone opposed? If no one's opposed, I declare it carried. 9.2, special meeting of the Governance Committee, 27th of August. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Edinger moved. Seconded Councillor Ross. Is there anyone opposed? If no one is opposed, I declare it carried. 9.3, special meeting of the Council, 27th of August. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Ross moved. I'm looking for a seconder. Councillor Lim. Is there anyone opposed? If no one's opposed, I declare it carried. 9.4, ordinary meeting of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee, 1st of September. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Lim moved, seconded. Councillor Lee. Is there anyone opposed? If no one is opposed, I declare it carried. 9.5, special meeting of the Governance Committee, 8th September. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Yes. Councillor Wheatland. Seconded. Councillor Ross. Is there anyone opposed? If no one is opposed, I declare it carried. 9.6, notes of agenda briefing, forum, 9th of September. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Wheatland moved, seconded. Councillor Lee. Is anyone opposed? If no one is opposed, I declare it carried. Item 10, new business of an urgent nature. There is no business of an urgent nature. 11, identification of matters for which meeting may be closed. There are no items that have been identified as confidential or having confidential attachments. Item 12, petitions. A petition submitted by Mr Waugh of Bull Creek was received by the City on 8 September 2025 in relation to a request for Public Committee for Policy Review. I also advise that a further page to the petition has been received with a further 8 signatures from the residents of the City of Melville yesterday. This petition has a total of 54 signatures from residents and 1 signature from a non-resident. Finally, I remind the Council of the written submission received from the City of Melville Residents and Ratepayers Association distributed to elected members on Monday. This will also be included in the minutes of the meeting. So item 12.1, petition request for Public Committee for Policy Review. I need a mover and seconder, please, for the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Edinger. Seconder.
Madam Mayor, I've got a question. When can I ask that?
Is it regarding the petition?
It's regarding the officer recommendation.
Yes, Councillor.
Do you need a seconder before I ask my question?
It probably would be better. I thought you were a seconder, but I'm looking for a seconder. Councillor Spanbrook, thank you. Yes, Councillor Barber.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, my question is just that why does it take 6 months to say yes or no to this petition? The community have asked for something. I don't know how the decision's going to go, but I'm just wondering why it takes 6 months to get back to these people.
Ms Newman, Head of Governance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, thank you for the question, Councillor Barber. We currently have local government reform, which does indicate there will be some changes to the conduct of committees, in particular opening them up to the public. There are a number of other pieces of new legislation that we'll need to consider. We've just suggested that it will be by March 2026. It may be earlier than that. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barber. Okay, is there anyone opposed? If there is no one opposed, I declare it carried. Item 13, adoption of recommendations en bloc. We now move on to en bloc items for this evening. The following items have been recommended to be carried en bloc. C25-307 Common Seal September. C25-308 Investment Statements for July. C25-309 Schedule of Accounts paid for July. C25-310 Statements for Financial Activity for July. And UP 2584 proposed 10-lot subdivision at numbers 740 and 742, Canning Highway, Applecross. Can I have a mover and seconder for the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Wheatland. A seconder, please. Councillor Lim. Is there anyone opposed? If no one is opposed, I declare it carried. We're now moving on to reports.
Madam
There's
Mayor.
been a request to
Yeah.
to move to item. Where is it? Moving to item C25-317, requested by a member of the gallery. Extraordinary election, March 2026. Due to the lateness of the item, the Head of Governance will provide a short briefing on this item. Thank you. Ms Newman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And elected members, my sincere apologies for the lateness of this item. We have been in discussion with the West Australian Electoral Commission. They are incredibly busy at the moment and we have struggled to get the required information. Due to the resignation, and as was highlighted during public question time, we now have a vacancy in the Palmyra and Melville Willagee ward, and the city is required under legislation to hold an extraordinary election. The timeline for this was the 27th of August was the last day we were able to advertise vacancies and call for nominations. The resignation was received on the 3rd of September. The council is required to make a decision on the date of the extraordinary election by the 3rd of October this year, or the WAEC will set that date for us. And under legislation, an election is to be held within 4 months of a vacancy. We have sought the approval of the Electoral Commissioner to hold an election outside of this date if the council so decides to do that. The West Australian Electoral Commission have indicated that they are holding other extraordinary elections in March 2026, and there may be some cost savings for us to join those dates. And we propose to bring a further report to the October 2025 Ordinary Meeting of Council to discuss the method of the election and to provide further details around the costings. Unfortunately, there are a significant number of factors that are outside of the control of the city in respect to this. We have explored it quite extensively with the WAEC in terms of the earliest we could hold an election. And whilst we could hold one earlier, the WAEC have actually indicated they would be unable to support us through that process as they are at capacity. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I please have a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Robbins.
Thank you, and thanks, Ms Newman, for your comments. Just in relation to your statement that the WAC indicated that they wouldn't be able to support us to do it any earlier, could you just clarify two things? Firstly, did they say any earlier than March they wouldn't be able to support us? And two, what does that look like? Does that mean that they wouldn't conduct the election for us and we'd have to do it ourselves? Thank you.
Ms Newman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, thank you for the question, Councillor Robbins. So they've indicated that they are at full capacity at the moment in terms of conducting elections. There are a number of factors that even if we were to conduct it ourselves, that they would need to provide support in relation to. Their suggestion is March is probably the earliest that they would be able to provide any form of support, particularly if we join in with the existing extraordinary elections that have been called for that month. And in terms of the city holding an election itself between now and the end of the year, we're probably under-resourced to be able to do that and would need to have extra support to do that, which would, again, we would need to go through the WAEC to achieve that.
Councillor Spanbrook, do you have a question? No. Councillor Whitland.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've got about 9, maybe 10 now. I have sent them through to governance, but you know, the longer this has gone on for me as a candidate, there's 2 other candidates in the room right now, the more concerning it is for us and the representation of our ward. So the report notes that, and I've written them to my lunch break today. The report notes that the earliest possible date is mid-December, but recommends March 26. Could more information be provided on why December 25 or January 26 was not pursued, given the Act anticipates elections being held within 4 months of a vacancy?
Ms Newman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the question, Councillor Wheatland. So we did discuss the options for dates with the WAC at great length. A December election would mean that we would be running it concurrently with our existing election. There is no cost savings to do that. Also, we would be advertising updates to our enrolment at the same time our postal votes would be coming in. It may be quite confusing for the community when we have one election occurring on the 18th of October and another one occurring later in December. So there are a number of factors to consider. It would also be quite a significant resource requirement, which currently the city doesn't have.
Yes, I will ask Councillor Green if you've got a very long list. 9, well, I'll go to Councillor Green. Pardon?
This question carries directly on.
Oh, does it? Okay, we'll take that question then.
Thank you. And look, And I take it on notice that the report did refer to conflicts with Christmas and school holidays, etc. But can we get any clarification given on how these factors are weighed against the importance of full representation for residents in the ward?
Ms Newman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and again through you. Thank you, Councillor Wheatland. So advice from the WAC is that voter turnout and participation during the festive period and through the summer school holidays is extremely low, and we are likely to not receive the number of votes or even nominations that we would most likely like. During a postal vote or even a ballot, an in-person ballot requires physical in-person presence for nominations and for voting processes. And just to give you an example of the length of time required, if we were to hold the election on March the 26th, as is the proposed date, we would be opening nominations on the 3rd of February. So there is quite a length of time that needs to happen for each milestone. To do it any earlier than that, we would be opening nominations during the summer school holidays when people are likely to be away. And we do know from the city's perspective that previous engagement processes during that time are not received favourably. Thank you.
Is that a follow-on again?
Yes, please. Thank you. I did send these in today, Madam Mayor. So just on that then, you know, then why has there not been any consideration, or is it actually ever been done that an extraordinary election can be conducted alongside an ordinary election, so the processes are all still in place? And could there be an election, it's a bit late now, but could have there been an election conducted concurrently with this 2025 election?
Ms Newman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To conduct one concurrently, we still need to achieve all the milestones. It takes about 80 days for a full election process to be conducted, and that doesn't include the council setting the date or resourcing the requirements around that. So whilst, yes, it could be run concurrently, it would have different timelines and different dates associated with it, and we would be running conflicting time frames. Thank you.
Councillor Green?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is by no means a suggestion that this is may have been the motivation of, but I'm just curious to know, with opening of nominations, is there a situation with the way it works at the moment, where a candidate for mayor in another city could run for mayor, and if they were unsuccessful, then re-nominate to become a councillor in City of Melville?
Ms Newman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, thank you for the question, Councillor Green. They couldn't run in the local government 2025 local government election, but if we were to hold an extraordinary election, as long as they are on our electoral roll and they meet all the requirements for a candidate, yes, they could.
Councillor Barber?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. A couple of questions. What's the potential cost of running this extraordinary election?
Ms Newman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor Barber. So we have had some very informal discussions with the West Australian Electoral Commission. They're not in a position to provide us with a formalised quote at this point, but we do hope to have it in the next week or so. But they are anticipating in the vicinity of $70,000. That doesn't include any City of Melville on costs, which are associated with statutory advertising and resourcing, election day requirements, and any other legal items that might need to be borne by the city. So we're probably looking at approximately $80,000. They have indicated that there may be some cost savings for us by joining the what they're calling the super Saturday elections in 2026. However, we would be looking to have ours on the Thursday before that. Thank you.
Councillor Ross?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I note that in the advice note that was sent out this afternoon, that it says that the earliest the city could conduct an extraordinary election would be mid-December. And the reasons given for not wanting that is it may be confusing for members of the public. Well, you know, the the other side of the coin is that the city would have to be without one of the members for around 6 months. And it seems that, I think we're probably judging the community a bit harshly in terms of blaming them for saying we shouldn't be running it because of that. I would certainly like to know why we're just taking what appears to be the easy way out rather than just moving ahead with having it as soon as possible.
Ms Newman?
Through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the question, Councillor Ross. I can assure you we're not taking the easy way out. We have explored every avenue in terms of trying to achieve this as quickly as possible for elected members. Even with the earliest date possible, we would still be swearing in a new elected member after the last council meeting in December, which is usually when elected members go into recess. So they would not be getting the full attention until February 2026. There are a number of milestones that, as I said, we have to achieve as part of that, and they do conflict with the current process. We already do have a number of residents contacting us in relation to the current election and some confusion around voting processes and opportunities. And on top of that, there is a significant resource requirement for the city to undertake one election, never mind two separate ones. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Ross.
If that's the case, why did we put in advice saying that it could be done? Surely we should have not provided that as a potential option.
Ms Newman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you again, Councillor Ross. I guess to provide transparency, it is an option. It's just not a feasible option in terms of resourcing at this point in time. And as indicated earlier, the WAEC have indicated they are not in a position to provide support for an earlier election.
Councillor Spanbrook?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just on this, I'm just wondering that is there any discretionary power by the minister that could potentially overrule what it is in the Acts, because it is quite an extraordinary time, and the fact that this will be the third election this year, and even speaking to people, there are a number of people out there going, really quite aghast that there's another election. So therefore, for this one now to take place next March, then it could very well, people could be very much turned off, and the appetite to participate in the vote could be very low. So has the city even requested or put some form of request to the minister to see if there's anything that they can actually bypass to consider doing it earlier? Thank you.
Ms Newman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, thank you, Councillor Spanbrook. We did explore informally the options around discretionary powers, and the advice was it is the decision of the commissioner the electoral commissioner who indicated an extraordinary election is required.
Councillor Edinger?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to follow on from Councillor Spanbrook's question, and your comments just then, Ms Newman, so could the electoral commissioner determine that 2 councillors are elected through the current election process?
Ms Newman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Thank you, Councillor Edinger, for the question. No, they could not, because the legislation does not provide for that, and they don't have that discretionary power.
Could the minister? Sorry.
Ms Newman, the minister?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I probably can't get into what the minister can and can't do, but our advice from that area was that they would defer to the electoral commissioner.
Councillor Wheatland?
No, I have a lot of questions. I am the current ward councillor and a candidate for this ward, and there are 2 candidates in the room. So, look, I just want to pick up on the question that Mr Drayton asked earlier about representation and residents being underrepresented, and the impact that this will have on the remaining councillor, whoever that is, that gets elected, will be carrying the full load of that ward representation, and also the impact of the load, the governance load and the learning and everything of the new councillor that gets elected if we go with March. And you know, has this governance or workload impact actually been considered? Because it's, you know, it's already bearing a weight on me as the ward councillor with the announcement, but also as the candidate and moving forward to having to potentially face 2 elections.
Ms Newman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, thank you, Councillor Wheatland, for your question. Yes, this has been considered. The intent of the Local Government Act is that all elected members represent everyone in the district. So whilst you are elected to a ward, the intention is that the 12 remaining elected members represent everybody in the district. And whilst there is a vacancy, it is no different to someone taking extended leave of absence, which is permitted under the Local Government Act. So there are provisions for people to be absent for a period of time. As I said earlier, it's even if we were to go to a December election, we would be swearing someone in after the last council meeting, and the council would be in recess during that time. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Wheatland?
Just in relation to what is the cost of an in-person election managed directly by the city as an alternative, would that be less costly for the residents and ratepayers of the city?
Ms Newman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Thank you, Councillor Wheatland, again for your questions. We are still exploring those options, but currently the workload for the governance team really does preclude us being able to run another election, and we would be seeking support through other avenues, including the WAEC, who have indicated they're unable to provide that support to us.
Councillor Barber?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Oh, look, I'm just thinking creatively and trying to save money. I note that Ms Newman mentioned that it's a different process for the extraordinary meeting, 80 days nomination and all of those different steps that have to be considered. But being that we've already got a nomination open and we've got 3 excellent candidates for the ward area, is it possible to do an alongside, we've already engaged the voters, an alongside election, maybe having 2 envelopes in the Melville, Willagee, Palmyra pack, one for the October election and one for the potentially December, that we don't count until December or something, so that it's already there. So we've saved money, we've already done the deed, we've got 3 excellent nominations. Can we think creatively and do something like that?
Ms Newman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the question. I do admire your creativity. However, the process is quite stringent around meeting certain deadlines, and postal voting packs are due to go out tomorrow. So there is no opportunity to run it as a concurrent process.
All right, so we're coming back to the officer recommendation. Do I have a mover and seconder? Do I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Robbins, seconded Councillor Spanbrook. Is there anyone opposed? Okay, so we'll go straight to the vote. Does anybody wish to speak? Councillor Robbins, Councillor Spanbrook? No, go to the vote. All right, thank you. Could we please go to the vote immediately? So green is for agreeing with the officer recommendation, red is against. That is carried 8-3. Moving on to the next item. We're going back to item C, 25, 313, Governance Framework, Biennial Review. Prior to tabling this item, I would like to invite Mr G. Waugh forward to provide a deputation. Please come forward to the microphone. You have 10 minutes to present, with a further 5 minutes for elected members to ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, members of the community, City of Melville staff, I, Gavin Waugh, provide this deputation to the Governance Framework C25 313. This discussion includes some rhetorical questions which I request are not answered, but ask that councillors should take these away and consider them for themselves. In its deliberations this evening on the motion to adopt and revise governance framework, I ask that Council conscientiously consider, as the Local Government Act section 2.74 prescribes, that Council make its decisions on the basis of evidence on the merits. For the following reasons, it is my professional view that the governance framework, as it has been presented to Council this day, does not carry meritorious evidence from the past 2 years of operation of having added or applied measurable benefit or improvement to the city's governance as practised. As presented for adoption is deficient to the extent that it does not exhibit nor evidence any independently oversighted merit in degree of capacity to beneficially influence the city's future governance. As presented for adoption, carries evidence of substantial capacity for conflict of interest to adversely affect its application and compliance performance measurement. As presented, provides substantive evidence of intentional disconnect or exclusion of community engagement contrary to section 1.32 of the Local Government Act. Please also take note of the inequity to this deputation. As a voice of community engagement concern, I am permitted 10 minutes to put this case, while the city's administrative officers have not only written and rewritten the governance framework, but have had the luxury of 2 years to lobby it to councillors. In light of the restrictions placed on me, I apologise ahead if you find any errors or omissions. Enter centre stage the city written governance framework. While having been very quietly installed 18 months ago and now put to council for a cut and pasted revision of its legislated references, it has never seen the light of day for substantive, diplomatic, open public consumption engagement. There is nothing more depressing or morale busting than to witness time and again the disrespect feted out on community members whose only crime in life is to seek to engage with their local government in encouragement of improvements to governance management in their community. Crimes of engagement examples include disability access, Moray Mews, Esplanade, Canning Bridge, Burt Jeffrey, Bull Creek, Kenhurst, Point Walter, Beach Street, Murray Street, Bicton, Canning Highway, Cardinia, Gilbertson Road, John Connell, Farrington Road, Wheatley Drive, Atterdale, bowling clubs, volunteering, Leeming Rec Centre, Murdoch and Melville Glades. And these are only the examples off the top of my head. Councillors, please consider what merit value does the governance framework carry while analysis of the governance management exampled across the above listed discontent is not evidenced. Alignment with the respect for community values is not evidenced. Absorption and simplification of policy into the governance framework is not evidenced. Analysis against the principles of rule of law, better regulation and regulatory impact assessment are not evidenced. Each and every one of those above listed discontents are created discontents which would have easily been avoided or easily resolved through having a governance framework aligned to actively engaging with and listening to its community. Why, when the applied governance of some of those above listed discontents has artificially continued discontent for more than a decade and at a huge resource burden and without measurable benefit to the city or its governance, would council wish to see that failure practice continue? Since Adam was a boy, there have been two golden rules of management. The first being that without analysis of evidence, the rules only benefit the power of the ruler. And secondly, if there is not a separation between those who write the rules and those who apply and enforce the rules, then the application and enforcement of rules will only ever serve the power of the enforcer. This principle has been further refined and is now known as the rule of law. This principle is inherently evidenced across the above listed discontents. Across the city's modified governance framework and its review report, there is no evidence of past, current or future governance practice consideration having been given against that best practice separation. Although subtle in places, there is, however, evidence in the governance framework of the installation of a prejudice favouring its administrators. In tune with the fears of the rule of law, the governance framework does not carry evidence of being a guidance tenet free from autocratic influence from the power of its administrators. In backing up the value of the rule of law, the West Australian Government had developed a better regulation and regulatory impact assessment support program for public sector organisations building regulatory instruments like policy or governance frameworks. Neither the governance framework nor its review report to Council identify evidence of assessment to the state better regulation program. Some of Australia's most successful business minds reside in Melville, including those who have retired. These ratepayers are available and ideally placed to support the city's governance development, oversight and an associated entire range of high-level business and professional advisories. Why then does the governance framework application exclude these and similar readily available and low-cost resources and install in their place high-cost, high-maintenance employee positions? Evidence of the governance application events collected over the last 12 months, such as threats, coercion, misleading counsel, using the power of positions of employment to act without authority, suggests that the standard of governance performance had in fact actually depreciated under the previous governance framework. Certainly the number and ferocity of misconduct complaints had not diminished. In closing, I ask Council, please consider amending the governance framework to include in the governance framework a permanent window, web page, committee or other access portal through which members of the community at their own convenience can access and leave for Council's consumption comment on any governance framework, plan, report, policy, local law or code. Thank you for listening, and if anyone wishes to get more information, they should contact me via email. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mr Waugh. Now it's open for elected members' questions. Are there any questions? Councillor Edinger.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr Waugh. I'm actually the chair of the Governance Committee, just by way of information for you. And in defence of the city's approach, I understand that governments have worked very hard to develop a comprehensive document that is based on the local government and other supporting legislation. I do have a question. On page 2, you mention crimes of engagement examples. I really don't understand this. The city uses internationally recognised community engagement protocols. Is that correct? Is that correct? I hope it is. And does actively seek community engagement for most of these things that you have mentioned. So can you just give us a bit more background to what the crimes of engagement examples, like, I don't understand what you're talking about, because I actually think the city does really well in its community engagement and seeks to engage ratepayers, residents and visitors in what they're wanting to do in the public realm. Thank you.
Mr Waugh.
Thank you. Therein lies the problem. From your side of the fence, I can understand what you're saying. But if you come on this side of the fence, each one of those that I've listed there is either a recent or a current complaint, discontent that is still underway. And some of those have carried over more than 10 years. And I'm sorry, but the city has not been overly diligent in ensuring that the city's own guidelines are being followed by the city officers, and resolution, in proper investigation, independent investigation and independent resolution are not happening. If that answers your question, thank you.
May I have another question?
Yes, Councillor Edinger.
So in relation to the bowling clubs, that's been a long process because the city had a bowling strategy that was erroneous and caused immense damage to our city. Since that's been retracted, the Mount Pleasant Bowling Club's had a revamp that has been a positive revamp and it's now a really good club. Melville Bowling Club has recently changed from a 50-year lease to a 21-year lease, so the city is now responsible for managing maintenance on that site. They have, as a club, they are moving forward. They have more people going to them for social events as well as bowling events. They have come up with a new forward-looking plan for their redevelopment or revamp. They haven't decided which path they're going to go down yet. The future for them is bright. They're engaged in the precinct in that area. I just, once again, I am wondering how you are considering this a crime of engagement. Some things do take 10 years to resolve. And the Melville Bowling Club is one such issue that is going to take so much time because of the damage that was caused years ago and the unwinding of things.
Sorry. Yes, both yes and no. I agree that there are a number of things and the, shall we say, fiasco of the bowling clubs, I understand is well in train for being repaired and rectified. That is. It was on my list simply because it was something I had in mind. It was an issue, and there is some little niggly bits around the place, but in most, that one has been reasonably well resolved to the satisfaction of the community, as I understand it. However, other ones aren't. And you know, there's a long way we can go to address it. Sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Councillor Edinger.
Just talking about Melville Bowling Club moving forward and how it's going to take time
Yes.
for the redevelopment or refreshing of their...
Sorry, the second part of that was time. Yes, there is a lot that the city can do in regards to time to address independent investigations and mediation or resolution. If you look simply at the governance framework, we basically have there three different codes of conduct. You've got one for elected members, you've got one for employees, and you've got one for everyone else. Now, even in the governance framework, there's not any ability to address matters that cross those boundaries. That's something that the city can manage quite well. And if it put its mind to it. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. So we'll leave it there.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from elected members? Councillor Spanbrook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have two questions. Hello, Gavin, by the way. I haven't seen you for some time. Good to see you. The first question is, have you submitted requests to the city to investigate the disability access to those named in the locations? And in particular, as you know, I'm the ward councillor for Bull Creek, and you've actually named just Bull Creek, the suburb. You've got Wheatley Drive, which is a street that I live on, Leeming Rec and John Connell Reserve. So if there are concerns, I mean, I haven't heard from you, so maybe you've reached out to the city officers or perhaps other councillors. I would be interested to know those. So have you made further representation to the city?
Mr. Wall?
Question one.
This is where it starts to get complicated. Yes, some of those matters have been addressed to the city. Some of them are by other people. However, as you are a ward councillor, I would be only too happy to sit down at some time with you and we can go through everything that is existing and take it wherever it needs to go. So please send me an email, I'll organise a time and we'll do that. It's not really something I can do now because it would take far too long.
Okay, Councillor Barber.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr Wall, for your presentation. I probably agree with the other councillors that you might have been a bit harsh on your crimes of engagement because my impression is that the council has certainly sought to improve its engagement. I think we're heading in the right direction. However, I do like your analogy with the rule of law, and I think that, and I have always been a proponent that thinks that we should be engaging the community on these issues. You highlighted the successful business minds in the city, and I fully agree with you. Earlier, and I see you're the lead petitioner actually, earlier tonight I questioned about a petition and said, why do we need 6 months to answer that petition? And the head of governance said to me that because of the state reform is suggesting that we have more community engagement in our policy making. And therefore my question to you is, do you feel positive about that?
Mr. Wall?
I would like to feel positive about it. However, for as long as I can recall, there has always been the requirement in the Local Government Act for community engagement. And when I'm talking about community engagement, I'm not just talking about letting people in the community know what's happening or offering them a comment response on a completed plan. I'm talking about a two-way engagement. And as with the compliance committee that you have, there is a great deal of benefit in both time and resources and enhancement of the council's reputation by going in much deeper in this community engagement. Use people like myself are there in the community. We are begging for you people to engage on a realistic perspective. So please, let's get rid of this list of crimes, as I put it. And again, that was put together today, so everything in that is very, very rushed. So I apologise if it has offended anyone. But we are here. We want to help the local government. It is our local government. We're there to help you, not to fight against you. We only fight against you because you don't let us help you. Please. You know, if I have to get down on my knees and beg, then please.
Councillor Spanbrook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just another question there, Mr Wall, that you clearly have other concerns other than disability access. Have you had, even though you spoke about a decade ago, administrations change? There has been a huge change in this administration. Have you had any discussions with the new administration since November 23, the new CEO? about your concerns, or perhaps you've even, requested a meeting with them. I don't know. So in saying that I just also want to express that councillors are actually, they are elected to represent the community.
Yes.
Community. So therefore, that if you wish to have a window into the governance framework to make, to obviously implement some changes, therefore, why do we have councillors then? We just need to go out to the entire community. So there is no purpose for us. And so you're, as a constituent, it would be incumbent on you to speak to your ward councillors, which I've never heard from you in the 4 years just about, and maybe 1 or 2 emails, but I think there you've actually sent in. But there's never been any other engagement other than that. And I think that, like you're saying, we need to be transparent and engaging, absolutely. So, contact me. I'm your ward councillor, and there is one other as well that can be contacted. And so, don't hold back. Anyway, thank you.
In that regard, I would like to apologise. You are correct. I should have contacted you more and more frequently. But again, that's a two-way street.
Can you also please answer the question, sorry, Madam Mayor, that since the new administration, November 23,
Yes.
have you,
Yes, I have. And each time I've sought a meeting, I've been rejected. So sorry.
Okay, well, we don't need to discuss that at this point. If you wish to take that up at another opportunity, please do, Mr Waugh. There's opportunities to communicate with the officers outside this meeting and your ward councillors. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you very, very much for allowing me to present. Thank you.
All right, we have an item on the table, the officer's recommendation, and can I have a mover and seconder, please?
Could I please ask a question?
Councillor Robbins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Around 6 weeks ago, elected members were advised that the city had established a new legal governance and risk role. I now realise, reading the governance framework document, that this appointment will result in the creation of a 5th director role. So I've got 2 questions about that. Firstly, was the new legal role advertised as a director role? And secondly, were other roles abolished in order to establish the new director role, or has the cost of that new role just been added to the city's budget?
Ms Bowman, CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Robbins. So the position was advertised as an executive position, but it didn't specify that it was a director. It's not a senior designated employee role, which other director roles are classified as, because it doesn't fit within that definition. There was another role which was called Chief of Staff, which is no longer going to be required. It's being phased out. And the budget for the position is fully included in this financial year's budget. It was also presented to previous governance committee meetings as part of an organisational capability and capacity review. So there's been a number of engagements with elected members throughout the process, and it was included within the budget for this financial year. Thank you.
Okay, I still need a mover and seconder for the recommendation. Do I have one, please? Councillor Spanbrook, seconder Councillor Edinger. Is there anyone opposed? If no one is opposed, I declare it carried. Moving on to item UP 2585, amendment to DA 2024-681A home business modification to condition of approval at Lot 2, 1A Latham Street in Alfred Cove. Now, prior to tabling the officer recommendation, I advise that Councillor Ross has proposed an alternative motion with notice previously distributed to elected members on Friday, 5th of September. I also advise that an officer advice note was also circulated in relation to the alternative motion. So, Councillor Ross, do you wish to proceed with your motion?
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Lim? Oh, I was looking in that direction. I don't mind who it is. Councillor Lim? Councillor, pardon? Yeah, well, that's exactly. All right, Councillor Ross, do you wish to open the debate?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The officer advice relating to this matter includes an alternative motion which is open to the council to adopt. The alternative motion that I am bringing before you alters the officer recommended alternative motion very minimally by one, altering the word visit to the word attends in condition 5 of DA 2024-681/A and deletes condition 12 of DA 2024-681/A, which is the condition which reads, notwithstanding condition 1, the home business use hereby approved is to cease operating within 12 months of the date of this approval. The history of this matter is as follows. Mr. McCarthy lodged a planning application in August 2017 to make alterations to his home, which is the subject of the application. The alterations included an activity room, which was soundproof during construction as a music room, and construction was completed in 2019. As a result of the COVID epidemic, Mr. McCarthy commenced online tutorials from his home in April 2021 and offered classes from about August 2021. I understand that having constructed a purpose-built music room with planning approval, Mr. McCarthy was under the impression that he was able to conduct a home business without any further planning approval. So Mr. McCarthy did not knowingly or have any intention to deliberately conduct a business without appropriate approvals. In late 2024, the city received a complaint about parking in the street. The city acknowledges that the complaint was not as a result of Mr. McCarthy's conduct of the home business, but was caused by building activity in the area. However, the city's officer who became aware of the home business advised Mr. McCarthy that he needed planning approval, and consequently, Mr. McCarthy immediately launched an application in August 2024 for planning approval. Over the course of the following 7 months, Mr. McCarthy promptly responded to several requests for information, including professional acoustic reports and parking management plans. Disappointingly, after just over 7 months, Mr. McCarthy received the approval dated 19 March 2025 for use as a home business with the condition that no more than 2 non-resident persons be employed at any one time and a maximum of 1 client at any one time permitted to visit the property. Yes, you heard correctly, 1 client at a time. Naturally, Mr. McCarthy lodged an appeal dated 27 March 2025, which resulted in the issue of an amended planning approval dated 4 June 2025. This approval increased the number of clients to a maximum of 6, but included, in my view, the dictatorially worded condition that the home business hereby is approved to cease operating within 12 months of the date of this approval. While the advice notes further down in the document advises that the applicant may submit a separate application 3 months before expiry for approval to continue to use the home business, the unnecessarily strong worded condition 12 is confronting and intimidating, especially after 9 months of waiting and wondering if the business would have to be closed down. As we have witnessed, this is a unique business of significant value to the community. Music is one of life's greatest treasures. Mothers sing to their babies from when they are born, and that is generally a child's earliest introduction to music. Improving that connection with music should be encouraged and supported. The City of Melville should be proud to have this business in the community and should be using its best endeavours to support and assist this business rather than making it difficult for the business to obtain approval and making recommendations to assess the business as an educational establishment, which will result in the immediate closure of this business. Classifying this business as an educational establishment will also potentially close down every other home business in the City of Melville which provides lessons of any sort, because the word education means the process of receiving or giving systematic instruction, which would include, for example, lessons in Pilates, drawing or painting. I am certain that the legislators who included the category of education establishment in the planning legislation had no intention that it should be interpreted and applied to a small business establishment offering informal music instruction to children in groups of less than 20. In any interpretation, there must be a threshold number, and the city has acknowledged that the city's policies and procedures do not have a threshold number to differentiate when a small business becomes a medium business or a large business. This business has been operating for 4 years now without any complaint about parking or noise, and the business has the written support from all the neighbours. The city advertised the business as an educational establishment and did not receive any objections, but it still has made a recommendation to refuse the application for development, which will close this business down.
Councillor Ross, are you nearly finished? Your time is up.
May I have an extra 2 minutes, please?
Is everyone okay with 2 minutes? All right, I'll grant you the 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I cannot understand why this application has been treated as it has, or why the city has expended so much time and resources in making this process difficult just because of their concerns about parking. There should be no concerns. The parking situation has been operating successfully for 4 years without any complaint or problem. All parking concerns have been trialled, tested, and shown to be unnecessary. This is a good application for a home business use with no adverse impacts on the amenity of the area. The city has twice, in March and June 2025, assessed this application as a home business use. Now they say we got it wrong. It is an educational establishment. But the only change in the application is to increase the number of clients from 6 to 12. So that's not really a valid reason, especially when the city have no threshold numbers to support such a gigantic change in assessment requirements. I ask you to support this application as a small home business use. I ask you to support the children's education at this venue. I ask you to support the community members who brought their children here, and I ask you to vote for this alternative motion. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I have an amendment to the motion.
Pardon?
I have,
Oh, you have an amendment. Okay, what is your amendment?
in point 3, I would like to add after the condition 12, I'd like to add in the words "and the associated advice note IB, i.e. 4, B, yeah. So, and that's it. Or you could put a comma after note and a comma after 12, just to so that you can see it's like 2 separate little things. Thank you.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Barber, perhaps it might be helpful if you just explain what your amendment is achieving.
So advice note 4 is no longer in force if the condition 12 is removed, and so both items need to be removed from the application. Yes, you should have the associated point 4 advice note. Yeah. And it's point IV. Roman, it's a Roman numeral, not an Arabic.
All right, thank you. That makes it, that's helpful. Yes. Okay, thank you. Do you wish to speak to that, Councillor Edinger?
No, I think it's fairly self-explanatory, thank you.
Well, since it's been moved and seconded, we would just say, is there any voice to the contrary? Is anyone opposed?
Just a minor administrative amendment,
Yes.
Madam
What
Mayor.
is that, Councillor Robbins?
The heading for the advice notes is advice notes, so plural S, so I don't know if we want to add an S to the end of that.
Thank you. I think that's been accepted. Is there anyone against or opposed If there's no one opposed, I declare that carried. We're now back to the substantive motion. Is there a speaker against? Is anyone against or opposed? If nobody is opposed, I declare it carried. Right, thank you. We're now moving on to the next item. In fact, we have finished all the items. Yes. Number 15, motions with previous notice. There are no motions with previous notice for consideration. 16, matters for which the meeting was closed to the public. There were no items that have been identified as confidential or having confidential attachments. Item 17, decisions made while meeting was closed to the public. For the purposes of the minutes, there were no items discussed behind closed doors. And number 18, there being no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 7:45 p.m. Thank you very much for your attendance. Please, if you could just wait a moment while we turn the live streaming off.